This video is sponsored by Yu-Gi-Oh! Master Duel. Yu-Gi-Oh! Master Duel is celebrating its first anniversary with both an in-game event starting February 13th and a Yu-Gi-Oh! Master Duel first anniversary invitational on March 10th. You will be able to watch it here on the official Yu-Gi-Oh! Twitch and also on the official Yu-Gi-Oh! Trading Card Game YouTube. Since the game's launch from a year ago, they released a ton of great features from team battles, great competitive events, and even more gates in solo mode. And hey, if you guys log in now, you will get a first anniversary card pack. Oh, by the way, sprites are in the game now, and elemental heroes, morphtronics, and punks, all of them got new support. Make sure you guys tune in on the Master Duel first anniversary invitational on March 10th on both Twitch and YouTube to celebrate.
We're Spright, Tom.
How dare you not cover Spright, Tom?
Thinking Spright's Diamond, Tom.
Well, here it is, as the true guide to getting into Diamond 1 is beating sprites. And this one, I'm going to go in much more depth in terms of how they build their board, their interaction against you, how they break your board, and the way that they deal damage. So buckle up and sit tight, hit subscribe, ding notification bell, and let's get to it. After the recent FNL list, sprites have definitely secured the top spot of being the deck to beat. Whether it be runic sprites or frog sprites, we both know that it's these sprites that's doing most of the heavy lifting now. But what makes a bunch of weenie level 2s so good? Well, let's break it down first. Sprights, they are a level 2 link to rank 2 control deck that can just spam the entire field quite quickly simply by putting a level 2 monster on the field. All of these monsters that are in the main deck, they're capable of special summoning themselves out onto the field as long as you control a different level 2. And on special summon, the dark ones, they will be able to search additional cards such as more monsters and spells and traps. And the ones that are fire, they get to provide you with negation and coverage. That's right, you get to negate spells and traps and their effects, and you also get to negate monster effects. So that's a lot of coverage and a lot of free summons. As this deck can pair well with level 2s, runic such as Runic Hugin, you can also pair them with the live twins, and even just the frogs from the swap frog to dump the Ronin Totem. All of these guys are level 2, which makes it a perfect synergistic strategy. Alright, we're gonna see the example board being built by sprites, starting off with this swap frog summon that is a level 2, but that's also gonna give us a follow-up with Ronin Totem. And then the Maxi's gonna come down. Haha, Maxi challenge gets cancelled by the Ash Blossom Joyous Spring. So once this gets resolved, we're gonna see the power of Spright Blue and what it leads into. Special summon the blue, add the jet, and special summon the jet, add the starter. Look at all these monsters coming out of the decks. Activate the starter, summon another one, and that's gonna be the red. That's gonna provide us with monster effect negation. Take 2 level 2 monsters and overlay and exceed summon into the Gigantic Spright. Gigantic Spright is another monster that's gonna be summoned out from the deck. You just summon out whatever that you're missing in this case, but we're just gonna go for the Spright Carrot. And using the Gigantic and the blue, that's going to special summon out the Spright Elf. And essentially, you summon back the Swap Frog. Swap Frog is going to send another Swap Frog into the graveyard. That's going to allow the Ronin Totem to summon itself back onto the field. Whatever else that comes out, well, that just depends on how you want to end your board or what you have already started with. An example full board of sprites looks something like this. There's a Spright Elf in the extra monster zone pointing to 2 cards that it's protecting from being targeted. IP Masquerena, Spright Red, and there's also an additional monster on the field such as the Spright Carrot. So you got coverage on monster effect negation, spell trap negation, and you can link climb into a utility monster from the extra deck, and in the back row there might be a Smashers, there might be Imperm, but that's a lot of disruption. And for 5 cards, if you trade 1 for 1 for these cards, you're probably going to lose. Spright Elf is going to summon back a monster from the graveyard, either a blue or a jet, and that's going to lead to even more monsters or spell traps added to hand. That's their follow-up. And the IP Masquerena can go into the Nightmare Phoenix, Nightmare Unicorn, Topologic Zero Boros, and a scary play that can come out of this would be the Spright Elf activating, chaining the IP Masquerena, going to Zero Boros, and then summoning that monster into the Zero Boros arrow, nuking the entire board. If you're playing back row and you've got everything set in the main phase because you went second, your board is about to get wiped out. So that's why it's also very scary and there's a lot of disruption. So even if you successfully stop your opponent, you're not necessarily going to win the entire game. You need to deal damage. Luckily, this deck has 2 forms of OTK at least, and one being the Gigantic Spright with an extra deck material under it, so that's 3200 attack base, that's the original attack, and follow it up with a Cat Shark to double that attack, that's going to put it to 64, and add another 1600, you have perfect 8000 damage. But the other way is to just spam a bunch of level 2 monsters on the field and using Jet to search another Spright card, Gamma Burst. Gamma Burst will add 1400 attack to all of the monsters that are level 2 linked to rank 2, and that's a lot of damage. It's at least over 5,000 damage that you're going to have just from that spell card alone, and one push and that's all it really takes. And it even dodges around Nibiru. In terms of board wipes, if they go second, one of the scarier plays is you gotta stop them from going into a rank 2 monster. If they get to the rank 2 monster, they're probably gonna go for Sky Cavalry, Centauria, and Centauria is gonna smash into a monster. It can't be destroyed by battle, but then because an Xyz monster has attacked or has been involved with a battle, it's going to be able to climb into Zeus, and Zeus is gonna wipe your board. Yeah, so these are some of the scary things that they can do. So, how do you beat them? Well, if they're going to be going first and they're building their board, the first card that comes to mind obviously is Maxi. They summon a whole lot, and if I can get more cards than my opponent, I can out-trade them even with bad trades. So, when should you Maxi? Upon the first appearance of a level 2 monster, you should probably just throw a Maxi into the graveyard. You can take the gamble whether or not they're just playing Runics, but if they're playing Runic Sprites, they're still going to load your hand full of cards, and you will be able to win from there. So that's point 1. And point 2, the next card you should be stopping is the Gigantic Spright. Letting Gigantic Spright resolve is one of the worst things possible, because if they go for a Swap Frog, they're going to put another Xyz or Link Summon. If they go for a Maxi, they probably have a Swap Frog or Herald that can put the Maxi back into hand, which means you have to deal with the board of Negations plus Maxi. That's usually like unplayable for most people. And then there's Imperia, that means they're going for a draw 1, or if they go into blue because they did this whole thing with like a Nimble package or a Deep Sea Diva, then they're going to go through that entire line leading into the Jet Starter Smashers. You kind of get the idea. So how would you stop the Gigantic Spright? Infinite Impermanence if there's no carrot on the field. Even if there is a carrot or there is a red, then they also need one additional level 2 monster on the field for them to tribute as cost. Because if they don't have that, the thing about Gigantic Spright is that detaching is not a cost, it's part of the effect, and the detach must be successful to get the summon. So they're going to let things go, but that means they're just going to go into Spright Elf right after by using whatever that's on the field. But hey, they are able to play around you, and for that reason, that's why Ghost Ogre is also usable against Gigantic Spright. Now, if they build their entire board, that's not the end of the world. Sure, they can trade really well with your cards, but there are certain cards that can trade even better, especially the ones that don't offer any interaction against the Spright board. Number 1, Forbidden Droplet. That card doesn't target, so even if Spright Elf is protecting 2 cards from being targeted, Droplet is gonna bypass that and still negate those cards on the field. Or better yet, you can turn off the entire field with 1 copy of Dark Ruler no more, but make sure that you're able to prevent them from getting additional summons onto the field. Otherwise, they're gonna try to reverse this entire game state back into gaining full control. Another one that's really good, that doesn't really offer your opponent much timing, is going to be the Winged Dragon Sphere Mode. Because Sphere Mode, you can hit 3 cards off of the field right away. They don't really get to do anything. Sure, you're trading away your normal summon, but if you don't use normal summons, that should be fine. And that means that the Spright Elf won't have a timing for them to actually revive a card, so they don't get the plus, you turn off the negation, and you get to gain control from there. And then similarly, there's also Lava Golem. You can use that to take out the Elf. You can probably leave up the carrot in the red, as that needs to tribute a level 2, and Lava Golem's level 8. So you can use that to take out probably the IP Masquerena, maybe the Mannequin Cat if they leave a Mannequin Cat on the field. But these are some of the things that you can use to take out your opponent and not really give them any option. As for other ways that are just spell and trap based, you just bait out, say, the Spright Carrot. Once they have no more spell trap negation, you can follow up with like a Dark Hole, evenly matched Raigeki, and that's going to clean the field of any additional problems whatsoever. And if you only have a problem against, say, monster effects and you want to Zeus them, then all you gotta do is take out the red and then work your way around it. But beware of back row when it comes to this, because they could still have imperms. They could maybe even have the smashers to remove your XYZ monster off of the field, so just be very careful of that. And if you're going to be going first against this deck, well, you're just building your typical board normally, but save your disruptions for the Gigantic Spright, maybe prevent the first level 2 body from hitting the field, and if they do normal summon out a monster first, you should probably take some effort to remove that monster right away before anything else kind of follows up with the Spright monsters. And that's it. This was the missing part of the Diamond 1 counter guide. If you guys enjoyed this video, smash that thumbs up button. If you guys want to see more stuff from MST.TV, hit that like button, hit subscribe, ding that notification bell, and I guess I'll see you guys well, this Friday.